You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tussaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again, kicking off the new year here with the first episode of the Option Block. Of course, we were off on Monday for the New Year's holiday, but now we're back and raring to go. Another great year in sights for the old OB. Some fun, maybe shakeups coming too. So look forward to that. Some fun new additions we'll be making to OB in probably the next month or so. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Should be kind of fun, bringing on maybe some new fun voices. We shall see. We shall see. My name, of course, is Mark Longo, the original fun voice that commenced all this mad options podcasting pretty much space back in 2007 when we launched the first ever options podcast. No, it wasn't the Option Block. It was our original show, which really was just called Options Insider Radio. And because no one had ever done an options podcast before, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I came from a trading background, not from a broadcast background. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I just threw together this crazy 2+ hour extravaganza of options content. It had guests and interviews. We had listener questions. We talked about content from the website. That was the original plan, was to have an ancillary way to deliver the website content from theoptionsinsider.com, which was planning to be kind of the main focus at the time. And then this whole podcast thing just took off. The content took off. Everybody loved it. And here we are now, 16. Yes, this is January, our 16th anniversary. Insane to say out loud. So happy birthday to the options podcast business, and happy birthday to us, because it's a fun. We'll have to plan some sort of fun soiree to celebrate all things. And of course, speaking of celebrating, we always celebrate you folks over there who join us on the pro. Welcome to all the new folks who joined us in the last month of the year, coming in after Thanksgiving and over the holiday season. You wanted a little bit of extra options content. I get it. Maybe you want to get away from your family a little bit. Join us for some exclusive content. You got a whole bunch of it to feast on now. I checked the other day. We're closing in on 200 episodes of just pure exclusive shows just for you folks. 200 hours worth of content, listeners. That's nothing to sneeze at there. Some of the best minds in the world of options. You got to pick their brains. And of course, great live access to this, everything else we do, as well as the giveaways coming up. Who knows? Maybe we'll get down to it today. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get down to giving away the winner of the Pro Trading Crate for the month of December. But first, let me introduce my compatriot here on the show today, my partner in crime, welcoming him back for the first time in the new year. He is the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show, sir. Happy New Year to you. How are things in the dark and stormy shores to ring in the new year?
They're quite good. We actually it's in the high 30s, low 40s. So and rainy. So we did a huge burn pile yesterday. Well, I didn't. My wife and Chillins did. So we burned stuff. Basically, that's how we celebrated the new year. We did a big burn.
There you go. So just saying thank you to Mother Earth by just belching tons of smoke into the sky. That's how you say thank you. I get it.
That is correct.
All right. Since I mentioned it, Mr. Rock Lobster, and also I should mention, by the way, our usual compatriot, the uncleist of Mike's, Mr. Mike Tussoff from St. Charles Wealth Management, taking a well-deserved cruise around the Caribbean, I believe, right now with his family. So not going to join us today. Let's hope this cruise turns out better than his last voyage down there. We ended up effectively in a COVID-type prison because he and his family had some COVID, and so they had to be observed until they could be allowed to leave. They had to do the quarantine there. He described it to me. It didn't sound too fun. So let's hope this cruise, this sojourn to that part of the world turns out better. But Mr. Rock Lobster, in his absence, how would you feel about being the lucky fellow who gets to choose the winner of this month's Pro Trading Crate? You think you can handle that? Are you up to that responsibility, sir?
Oh, my word. I don't think I've gotten that before. So since I will never get the Pro Trading Crate, quite honestly.
You will not get that. No, you will not get
I can live vicariously through the professional listeners that can. So I will vicariously live through their joy.
Remember, you had a choice. You had an umbrage crate, or you got to take the last week of the year off. You chose to take the last week of the year off, so you kind of kiboshed your umbrage crate. We were putting it together for you, but you can choose the Pro Trading Crate. All right, the clock is running here. I have fired up the random number generator. They are flashing with all the member numbers here. When the mood takes you, Mr. Rock Lobsters, tell me to stop. We will see who that translates to. So tell me whenever.
Okay, stop.
All right, bam, right there, right as you said it. The reflexes. Cat-like, if I do say so myself. All right. Who is this? 1-0. Oh, that's a long one. All right. This is Eric. Eric Sanders. Well, Eric, congratulations to you over there. Oh, I think this might be Mr. Pariah Pants, in which case he was just in there yesterday talking, saying he got Mark's book. So there you go. Mr. I think Pariah Pants, a.k.a. Eric Sanders. Congratulations to you. You are our winner of the Pro Trading Crate for the month of December. Remember, if you were active out there, all you had to do was be active in the Pro for the month of December. You were automatically entered out there. You too can win fabulous prizes. Just like Eric. Eric, stay tuned for an email from our producers. They will ask you what you're looking at from a educational perspective, what you're interested in, as well as some of your clothing sizes. And we'll take the rest from there and run with it. There's a cool mountain of stuff. Who knows what's going to be in your every crate is one of a kind. If you want to see what people are getting, listeners, just follow us on Twitter. People are always tweeting out the winners out there. It makes the Rock Lobster angry to no small extent. He's like, how come I don't get a crate? He wants one too. So instead of letting him draw more umbrage, let's keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading. And you know what, listeners? We just seem like we just cannot escape this 3,800 level to start the year. We sold off down to it in the beginning of the year. Then we rallied yesterday a little bit away from it up to about 38.5. And now right back down to it again. S&P off about 1.2%. Dow off pretty much exactly the same percent. So that's a rare moment of symmetry between the Dow and the S&P. The NASDAQ off 1.4%. So intriguing stuff. Got a feeling we're going to be hearing more about NASDAQ vol coming up in the new year here on the network as well. So stay tuned for all that fun little vol Q action. Good for what ails you out there. Speaking of vol out there, listeners, as we're kicking off the show, VIX itself at about a 2260. That's up a little over a point, about 1.1 points from where it was this time last show. If you want the full gamut of what VIX did on the year, check out our end of the show for the option block last year, or indeed Vol Views, the final show for the year, where we ran down that and a whole bunch of other fun vol products in their entirety for the year. VVIX, our old friend VVIX, hanging out kind of shrugging its shoulders to kick off the new year at about a 77. That is literally unched from where we were this time a week ago. Also, interestingly enough, a very different environment than what we were kicking off the new year with last year. This time last year, VVIX was about 110, 109, so much frothier, much more vol in the air, even though, weirdly enough, VIX was about 6 points lower. VIX was around 1630 when we kicked off the new year. So VIX had its low for the year on the first trading day of the year and never looked back. So a very strange environment we were in. Very high vol, very low actual vol. And then we saw all that kind of diverge as the year went on. Of course, vol crept up. Vol came down. They kind of crossed around that March, April timeframe. April, I do believe, is when, or maybe even May was when VVIX finally dropped below 100. I got up to, I believe in that interim, got up to around 170. So it was 174, I believe. So quite a run for vol last year. And then coming right back down, it's been below triple digits pretty much ever since May of last year. So intriguing stuff. And right now hanging out at about a 77, which if you know much about vol, you know it's probably not going to hang out there for too long. It'll probably move eventually. We'll see what happens. But for now, it's been hanging out for about a week. VXX at about 1385, down about 0.15 from where it was this time last week. UVXY 6 3/4. That puts it unched from a week ago. So no action there on UVXY. SVIX 1485, also unched from where it was this time last week. UVIX continues to move ever closer to zero, 560, down a tenth of a point right now. Which one will reverse split first, UVIX or UVXY? We shall find out. And then VolQ, 28 1/4, up 1 1/4 from where it was this time last week. All right, Mr. Meatball, I apologize. Mr. Rock Lobster, a lot to unpack there. We'll start. We didn't get a chance to talk to you at our final show for the year last year. So maybe let's start there. Really quickly, what are your big takeaways from the world of options and vol for the mad year that was 2022? Then we'll get into this year's fun, sir.
Well, I think this is a topic we covered, but very high realized vol for the market. So for the listeners, all that is just the close-to-close volatility was extremely high. And I even surprised Russell with a couple of data points. He's like, wow, that really is high. I just look at different longer term indicators just because it helps me get like a gravitational pull for where VIX could go. And like the reality is VIX is still pulling higher. As much as this last month, realized vol has come down quite a bit, back to the teens or the high teens. The trend is still higher. So I think last year was just the year of, I think we spent most of the year in zone 4. As much as I can remember a year where volatility was above 24, it's been a while. I mean, granted, the 2020 thing, that 1 month we had that huge spike in vol, but vol did drop below 24 significantly, after we got through June or whatever. And then we had another pop and then it all kind of went away again. This year was not like that. I mean, it stayed in the mid 20s. It feels like forever. So those are the two big observations. And then I guess the last observation was just we finished the year with VVIX so low, as you just remarked here. Like VVIX is in the 70s, and VIX is in the mid 20s. So again, a very odd confluence. Normally, you have when vol goes to the 20s, we're expecting vol to go higher, right? 20s, 30s, and that's where the bid goes because everybody's afraid the market's going to fall apart. And that's not how it's trading right now. It's not trading anywhere like that. Where we get to the 20s, they're like, okay, that's where we are because now we're oscillating at just a higher vol. And I think it's a symptom of the interest rate, the whole interest rate scheme going on, and the Fed going to do this, the Fed going to do that. We got to lean on every month. There's a new CPI number or some, major event that's going to move the market 3%. So hard for volatility to drop when all those things are happening. So I think those are still with us. I don't think they're going to be with us to the extent that 2022 happens, unless we get signed a kind of some weird disaster. But it feels like we should see a little less volatility this year. My guess, VIX should average at least 2 points lower. Again, a guess is just a guess. But I mean, I would assume it would be lower because, the Fed, we're closer to the Fed target, their terminal rate. So if we only have, another point and a half, it's not like we have to go 4 points anymore, 5 points anymore. So that should take some volatility out of the market. And, as of right now, the bond market's functioning. And we'll see, how Uncle Sam pays its bills. It'll be interesting to see now that they have to pay interest on debt. So let's see if some of the deficit spending can go away. But other than that, I think that's a big factor. On the market was moving. There was a reason for it to move. Multiple things going on. And I have to say, like, the biggest thing, if you go through 2022, something that dominated the headlines for 2 years, the whole COVID thing. I mean, I don't see that was except for the occasional ad in your Twitter feed to go get your shots and your boosters and all the other kind of stuff. You're not seeing a whole lot out of it. I don't know if they're going to try to make it a news item again, but you're not seeing that anymore. So it's wreaking havoc in China still, but you're not seeing it here. So from a vol point of view, the stuff that created a lot of the vol, at least I think the interest rates was the dominant thing by far. Obviously the Ukraine thing, when everybody didn't know if there's going to be any commodities, or like the whole global supply chains have been rethunk in a big way. But I have to say, man, they react pretty quick. Here we are 6 months later, and natural gas prices are in the floor again. And everybody, and then 4 months ago, like they're saying the EU wasn't going to have any natural gas. Well, they found it somewhere. So you have like the market reacts. Like when you let the market react, they're going to find a way to solve a problem, especially if there's some money involved. So you're looking at what we have now, and like it's hard to believe that 2023 will be more volatile than 2022. But hey, it's not the first time we've been surprised over the last several years. But I would say on balance, we should see lower vol from the maelstrom of vol we had. I mean, like since I started working with Market Option Pit, it's probably the most volatile period, extended that I can remember. The Euro crisis was a little more concentrated, probably roughly about the same range, but when everybody thought the euro was going to go to zero. So, I mean, those were pretty big events. So, and that's what we have now. So as we go forward, we'll see if, that higher vol it just hangs out. Now, I don't think it will. It's starting to come down a little bit. And even the Fed, with the FOMC minutes yesterday, it didn't produce the swing that it produced a 4.5, 40 or 50 point swing in SPX, and that kind of comment 3 months ago, 4 months ago would have sent us down 200 points, 250 points maybe or more, touching on that lower level, that 3,600, 3,500. And now everybody's like, yep. So I think there's some acceptance about, this is what we got. We got higher interest rates. They're going to be like this for a while. And, now we move on to earnings, which are going to start in a couple days.
Yes, we're kicking that off there soon. So that's your look back at the past year, Mr. Rock Lobster. So it's a crazy one. Really quickly, anything else catching your eye out there as we kick off this trading week and the trading year?
I think the strangest thing is the lack of interest in VIX options with the CPI number this week. So if you're looking at it, and let's see, where's my platform? I am lost in a maelstrom of, there it is. Okay. So VIX is 22.5, 22.58. And VVIX is 76. So you can imagine that that's like no vol, basically, for VIX. So with the CPI number coming out, the VIX Jan ordinary cycle, so the Jan 18, 24, the 23 calls are $1.16, and they are 40 cents out of the money to the cash, and a little less so the futures. I think are all pretty flat, but they're nothing. Literally, they're saying nothing. VIX is not going to move. It's not going to go below 20. It is never going to move. And that's kind of where the pricing it is unbelievably low. And I can't say that I can disagree with how they're pricing it. So I think it's fairly priced. It's just we're at a higher vol. Skew is ultra flat right now. I mean, crazy flat in the SPX. Everybody's like, okay, you've thrown, I feel like another thing about 2020, you threw your worst at us, and we end the year and we're 3,800. And that's kind of, we were 4,800, now we're 3,800. All right, now show me what you got for 2022, for 2023. But nobody is paying up for protection anymore. And well, also vol at the money is already 22, right? So our VIX is already 22, so at the money vol is probably 19 or 20. So that's what we got. So it is a nonplussed market going into the CPI number on the 12th.
Nonplussed indeed. Let's see if any of that is translating to any volume today, listeners. And I guess the technical answer is, we're seeing some paper. Again, we're not usually at the most robust volume period for the year. Markets are still kind of waking up from the Christmas and New Year's holiday hangovers. The 1-2 punch out there, usually not a lot of volume really to end the year, and doesn't really kick off that aggressively in the beginning of the year. Last couple of years, notwithstanding, we have seen some crazy events early on in the cycles to really kick things off. People even forget back in 2020, before all the pandemic madness happened, we, of course, assassinated that Iranian general on the tarmac there. So that year kicked off very early and very rapidly as well. So at least so far this year, we're doing all right. No crazy earth-shattering global catastrophes, at least for now. So let's see how that translates to volume. Like we said, it's not like VIX is doing 87,000 contracts today. It's doing 214,000 right now. That's respectable for January 5th. The ADV is hanging out at about 511,000. So it's threatening to break 500,000 in the wrong direction. But then again, that's the seasonality of VIX volume for you. We expect that to pick up a bit now that we're past the end of December. SPY 4.5 million right now. The ADV about 8.2 million. Yes, about 1.4 million contracts on the tape right now. The ADV 2.6 million. Let's just look really quickly at the SPX list and let's see how many. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the top 20 most active contracts in SPX right now. Mr. Rock Lobster, take a wild guess. How many of the top 20 are not expiring today? So are not 0 DTE trades.
Are not 0 DTE. And this is what, the most active volume?
Yeah, the most active contracts in SPX. I'm looking at the top 20 right now. How many of those 20 are not 0 DTE?
All right, I'm not cheating, but I'm going to guess 4.
Not a bad guess. The answer is 0. They're all expiring today. I don't think I've ever seen, I've been doing this for a while, I don't think I've ever seen such a sea change in such a storied product in such a short amount of time. I mean, this is the SPX we're talking about. This isn't AMC, This is a storied institutional product, and it seems like overnight the game has changed. Would you concur with that, Mr. Rock Lobster?
Yeah, well, you know what? You have to admit, though, that the one day to expiration SPX, it trades great. I mean, well, also, too, don't forget, you have a 1.5% daily move almost average, right? So you've got 50 points SPX every day. It's like, woohoo! With one day with the fierce decay. But what's funny is how long it took him to actually come up with this. And I remember, I think, isn't that Sosnoff was the guy that originally suggested this to the SIBO, 15 years ago. They probably didn't have the bandwidth. Literally, internet bandwidth to do daily products, to add all these strikes. And I think you want to call them quickies, if I'm not mistaken. Little history for people.
Yes, I think that was his initial idea. At least he has put it out there that way. I don't think that name would have really resonated the way perhaps he hoped. By the way, I just increased the numbers. So 20 of the top 20 most active in SPX are expiring today, and 35 of the top 40 in SPX. So only 5 of the top 40 most active contracts in SPX today are not expiring today, and several of those, 2 of them are expiring tomorrow. So, I mean, this is just insane. In fact, the Flowmaster, I had him build me a special scan, Mr. Rock Lobster, just so we could find the non-zero DTE. You got to really look in SPX now to find it. This is just, this is just mind-blowing to me how quickly this storied institutional product has just completely been flipped on its head by this. They had dailies effectively already, and they were missing a couple of days, right? But they had them. You could trade very near-dated paper in SPX before if you wanted to, but it was just those missing 2 days, Mr. Rocklops. When they added those, it's like the light bulb just turned on, and everyone said, wait a minute, I'm doing it all wrong. Let's try it this way instead. Look, your compatriot, the Meatball, prime example. This is all he does now, right?
Yeah, it's been a great success. So, it's a little technique, but I mean the reality is every day you get the perfect tent on or the ability for the perfect tent, P&L tent. It's funny because you remember all those years that you had those big plastic charts that the CBOE used to give away, the Options Institute, like this is how an option trades, right? And this is how it expires. And then we show the tent of the, upsider, the tent, the smile, right? Of how like a butterfly or a calendar or whatever. And now everybody can actually trade it every day, because you get from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, you have a chance for some kind of perfect close, especially in a cash settled option, because you don't have to deal with anything. And I think that's part of the magic is the cash settle. You don't have to deal. I think that would, I don't think it would, even though VIX is cash settled, I don't even think they could do it, right? But the fact that the SPX is cash settled, I think is part of the magic of it. I don't think it would be as exciting in an Apple or something
That's true.
else.
That's true.
You do have the funk of the
that is true.
That probably won't stop them from, coming up with a cash index or maybe some of these products or cash settled options. I think I could see that coming down the pipe.
Ooh, Apple Cash coming soon to a trading screen near you. I'm going to trade Apple Cash.
Yes, exactly, Apple. Well, some of these binary options are kind of already trading, right? We have those other exchanges and others thing optionality. So there's kind of like it's sort of out there already. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, how the industry evolves. But every exchange is looking at the volume in the SPX on daily options, and there's 50 exchanges now? I don't even know anymore. But they got to be looking at this, going, "Wow, this could be a good thing." So they all look at it and say, "Hey, this is an opportunity." Let's say we'll call it an opportunity.
Opportunity indeed. We could talk about zero DTE for the rest of the show, but let's keep rolling. Let's see. Small caps right now looking kind of light. Only about 300,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV 781,000. We'll get more into small caps probably later on TWIFO. The Qs about 1.4 million contracts. The ADV 2.7 million out there right now. Let's get on out to the most actives today. Let's see what's lighting it up. And it's a respectable most actives day. In fact, VIX volume is pretty much exactly what it cost you to break into the top 10 today, listeners. It's about 217,000 contracts. That gets you all the way to the artist formerly known as Facebook. Now, of course, Meta Platforms, 127.5. Kind of unched on the day. They had dipped down to 124.5. Actually, 124.54. They are now 127.54. So they have rallied $3 from their nadir on the day. So maybe we'll see another turnaround today with this sell-off. We shall see. Number 9 is a newcomer. I don't think we've ever seen this one before in our top 10 most actives. This is Silvergate Capital, ticker symbol SI, doing 219,000 contracts. I had to look and see what the hell is going on with this name. So they sold off pretty much 50% over the last week after the Journal reported that the collapse of FTX sparked a run on their crypto-focused bank last year. So we had to wait for the Journal to figure that out. The investors didn't know that there was a run on this bank. That seems like a bit of a delayed reaction to the FTX debacle. They were forced to sell assets at a huge loss to cover over $8 billion in withdrawals. So it seems like a bit of a lagging indicator of FTX. This probably should have happened, back in November. But intriguing stuff nonetheless. SI, good for number 9, 219,000. This is look really quickly, see what's trading out there in good old SI. I'm going to guess a whole bunch of puts. And no, the top trade in SI today are about 16,000 of the Jan 15 half calls. The stock's at 1260 right now. Followed by the Feb, 14,000 of the Feb 10 puts. I expected that, though. So 15 half calls. A little bit more surprising. Intriguing stuff. Yeah, it looks like paper might be overriding those. They sold 1,000 of them this morning for 65 cents. Looks like they've been trading in small buckets. So override them for 60 cents. Like they may be selling those calls. But intriguing stuff there nonetheless. Good for 219,000 contracts. Number 8, a name most of you are more familiar with. The old Netflix, 251,000 contracts. 312 and a quarter, up about $3 on the day, or pretty close to it. Number 7, our old friend Bed Bath and Beyond. Maybe heading to the great beyond soon. They're off about 60 cents today, trading 184. Good for 266,000 contracts today. And there are some dire rumors. This one, of course, the name that has become synonymous with some of the meme stock era, of course, with AMC and GameStop and others. Very infamously, back in, end of 2020, I think we posted that death poll. Which name will go out of business first? GameStop or Bed Bath & Beyond? Little did we know how wrong we would be just in the span of a couple of months. I think we posted that in October of 2020. By January of 2021, the meme stock era had kicked off, very much involving those two names. Fast forward here to Jan of 2023. Looks like we're doing a death watch here for Bed Bath & Beyond. 184 off 60 cents, or about 24% today. They just pushed their earnings. Never a good sign. And they're warning they may need to file for bankruptcy. So unfortunately, maybe the bloom off that rose. They stopped sending out those coupons. That was the kiss of death for them. Number 6, we've got Baba here, 273,000 contracts, as we're already kind of coming up against it. Let's keep cranking. Number 5, we've got NVIDIA, the chip zone, coming a little later today, 300,000 contracts exactly. Number 4, Microsoft. This one has had an interesting, turbulent couple of days, off nearly over $6 today, about 2.3%. They just have come for this ever since the beginning of the new year. It kicked off the new year right around 240, and it's been pretty much straight down to 223 right now. So a rough journey for Microsoft. 337,000 contracts on the tape. Number 3, Amazon. They're doing the same trick everyone else is doing now. They're cutting jobs. Doesn't seem like it's working for them, though. They're still off $1. It worked for Facebook. They shot that thing up like a rocket after they announced they were cutting jobs, but not so much for Amazon. Still good for 410,000. Number 2, we got the fruit company, 876,000 contracts on the tape right now for Apple. Apple is green. You know they don't like it when Apple is red. So when Apple dipped this morning, they rallied it back up. Got as low as 125 and about a third today. Trading 126.80 right now, so having rebounded a bit. Apple obviously hanging out pretty close to its 52-week low. What are your thoughts on Apple here, listeners? I'm curious. We were kind of debating this with the Meatball yesterday on his Pro Q&A. And outlook for Apple going forward. It's an intriguing one, and it's good for number 2. Number 1, you know what it is. It's the old Tesla, listeners. 1.7 million contracts. Tesla off another $3 or $110.75. Man, what a drubbing the last month has been for Tesla. Off 72 handles, or nearly 40%. This Twitter deal has just been a debacle on all fronts, a debacle for Twitter and a corresponding debacle for Tesla, and amongst other things that are weighing down Tesla. But a lot of it is very much his splitting of his focus between Tesla and Twitter. And stock paying the price, Musk paying the price, no longer even close to the richest person on the planet anymore. So shed a tear for him, listeners. As we keep on rolling, it is time. Well, really quickly, before we do that, Mr. Rock Lobster, we are doing kind of a beginning of the year trends data. And really quickly for options trading, this used to be the top trend for your neck of the woods. Maine used to be the mecca for options trading. The high for options trading last year, according to Google's trends, was pretty much close to a year ago, the end of January, beginning of February, Jan 30th to 5th. That was the apex for search interest in options trading. The low came at 56 on November 26th. We are hanging out not that far away from that now, right around a 60 odd in options trading interest. But Mr. Rock Lobster, take a guess. Do you think Maine has once again regained its crown or is even in the top 5 of search interest for options trading last year, sir?
Well, first off, it should be in the top 5 because I do reside in the state of Maine. So it should be in the top 5. However, I will concede that it is a relatively small state. I think it's the least populated in the country. So I'll let that go. But I think, again, I think it is the number one state with the most second homes, and I think those people still trade options. So I'm going to go, it is in the top 5.
You had the crown for a while.
5, but I think the number one state, I'm going to go Florida.
Interesting. You had the crown for a while, and these are by capita. And since you do a lot of options searching, and there's only 4 other people in the state of Maine, it should be very high ranked by capita,
yes,
you would think.
Yes.
But alas, you did not make it again this year, Mr. Rock Lobsters. I don't know. You're just not hitting the keyboard hard enough over there. We got to work with you over there. Not even in the top. You know what took the top 5? Your buddy over there, stayed over, Mr. Matt and Oratz and New Hampshire, making the list this year, number 5. So Matt's putting in the time on the keyboard. You, sir, you're out there battling the clam pirates or whatever it is. Clearly, Maine, fallen off the radar. Number 4 is your pick, Florida. So you at least had some skin in the game there. Number 3, New Jersey. Number 2, Illinois. I wonder why that is. And number 1, New York. So 2 of the big financial and options meccas there, number 1 and number 2. That makes sense. New Jersey is pretty much New York adjacent. And then Florida for the retirees. And then New Hampshire because of Matt. There we go. All right. That's our top 5 for options trading as we kick off the first odd block of the new year.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's see what's lighting up our tape for the first time here in the new year as we unleash the Eye of Sauron. And what does it fix its gaze upon first, listeners? A newcomer to the Odd Block. This is NTNX Inc. I love kicking off the new year with a new name. This is an American cloud computing company. They're out of San Jose. Where else would they be based out of, listeners? Ticker symbol NTNX. Trading $25.50 today, off about $1.25 or nearly 5%. So not a great day for NTNX. Let's see. On the year, a little bit of a different story. A year ago, it was trading $30. So they have shed some value, but not as much as other names. They sold off to their low for the year in June, listeners. They hit $13.44. So they clearly have rebounded aggressively. This chart is almost bifurcated, like right down the middle. They sold off to June 13th and they rallied pretty much again all the way almost until the end of the year. They rallied from that June 13th date all the way back up to their high for the year. That came at 33.75 on December 14th, just a few weeks ago. And then since then, they have sold off almost $8 to where they are right now, $25.50. So they're net down on the year, about a little over $5, about $5.25, but still well off their lows for the year as well, about $12 off their lows for the year. So what do we see out here, Mr. Rock Lobster? What do our Eye of Sauron fixate on out there today in everyone's favorite NTNX? Looks like a bit of a house money roll, Mr. Rock Lobster. Maybe with a little bit of an extra put lub as well. So maybe they're kind of legging into a strangle. We shall see. The first thing that caught our eye were 10,750 of the April 32 halves going up for 80 cents. It's like paper probably buying those. We'll see. And then against that, we see the 25 calls going up for $1.65. Those are kind of right off the bid there. So it's like they're dumping those, probably buying the 32 halves. 7,861 of the Jan calls. So your first sense that it's a house money roll is that, hey, they're doing more on the second leg, usually a sign that they're sitting on some house money. The stock at the time was 25.83, so they're obviously through that 25 strike. So maybe another good sign that maybe those 25s are paying off. We went and dug around. We saw that they opened those Jan calls way back in August. They did it a while ago. It's like they did them in a bunch of different small lots. They paid prices around $1 for these things. So they dumped them today for $1.65. They started buying them when the stock was $18. So they got a nice move in the stock. Didn't get a huge amount of pop for these calls. But then again, it took a while for that move to happen, right? We said it before. When you're buying premium, you want that move to happen. You're buying calls in August. You ideally like that move to happen in August, maybe September at the latest. By the time you get to January, those options have eroded so much that you're making money on your trade, but you're nowhere near what you would have made, let's say, a few months ago, the same kind of move. So making money, perhaps not as much as they would have if they were a little bit earlier with their trade. And then it looks like also, Mr. Rocklops, and maybe another sign that they got some money to burn, because a few minutes before this trade went up, someone also came out and bought 8,528 of the April 22 half puts, and they paid $1.30 for those, lifting the offer. Now, that didn't go up as spread, but it went up a couple of minutes before all this other roll went up. So it seems like it's probably related paper. Same expiration cycle, similar size. So, Mr. Rocklops, if somebody maybe has some calls, made some money on them, and now is legging into perhaps a bit of a strangle, a 10-point wide strangle in NTNX, sir, what say you?
This actually is a symbol. This feels like old school odd block.
It does.
Many moons ago.
It does have a whiff of that, yes. Even though it sounds like a biotech name, but it's not. It's a cloud computing name.
Yes, it's like it's all weird, and it probably was a stock that was really expensive, and now it's just in the junk heap. Let's see here. So this is one of my favorites. Let's see. Okay, high of $33. Well, let's see what it was the last year. Was it $100 stock? Let's see. Wow, actually,
it was $33 to kick off the year.
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't. It never flew to the dizzying heights of some of the other ones. So let's see here. Okay, Jan. I think a house money roll is not. Oh, and they even rolled a little bit. Oh my gosh. So wow, this doesn't look so bad at all. Okay, and then it looks like someone bought some puts a few minutes before April strangle. So wow. That is that's a whole passel of paper there on this one.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, because now I'm looking at the 32 and a half. They've now put up 25,000 of that strike. They've also put up 5,000 each of the quarter and 27s. Really weird. Yeah. The vols come up a little bit in there. It kind of looks like they just sort of bought everything. Because it looks like because that's opening paper as well on 25, 27 and a half. So it kind of is like, okay, we're just going to buy everything, right? Because now those 80 calls are 75.90 and the puts are 45.50. So they're coming for those puts. Wow. These are like two totally different universes. So I think, they're going to house money roll a good chunk, but I think it's a totally other separate customer buying the puts.
Could be. It was like 2 minutes apart. So
yeah,
strange.
Let me see here. Are they on different exchanges? I'm going to try to add a little value here to your show.
Yeah, one was on the Philly, one was on the SIBO.
Yeah. So, normally, normally I don't split a customer on different floors, but I mean, if they're trying to buy calls in one place, it's not unusual to buy puts in another.
But I will say the first leg of the SIBO trade of the call roll is also on the SIBO. So they did split that customer. So that is weird. It's a weird all around.
Right. Very, very odd. But maybe they think this thing's going to move. Clearly they think it's going to move.
I think that's the takeaway from all this paper, right? They think this thing's going somewhere.
Yeah, it's going, it's really weird for all of, I just said, as volatile as 2022 was, this stock had a relatively benign, well, I guess it did get cut. It did lose 60% of its market value at one point from the top. So I guess it did have a move, but I mean, the range, so 40, 25-ish, and 15, I guess it had a range. It had a range. But they're definitely looking for, that upside. I mean, those 32.5s, they're looking for a pretty good-sized move till April. I don't hate the trade if the stock is, if it goes on some kind of earnings tear or something like that. But I think those 22.5 puts at a 55 vol, don't look so bad. And there is some upward skew in the calls too. So they're just, again, they're buying out of the money options, looking for a move. I can't parse it much more than that. I mean, they definitely think something's going to happen here.
Can't parse it much more than that. So it looks like NTNX listeners is going somewhere. You don't know where. It can't stay here though. It's gotta move from where it is right now. I'll keep an eye on that one let's go to a little bit more straightforward paper. Looks like somebody is fading the heck out of American Eagle, ticker symbol AEO. 14 3/4. You kind of know the saga on American Eagle. Not the best year for them. They kicked off the year 24.5, actually. That's pretty much right around, they got up to about $25 right around a couple days after the new year. That was the high for the year. They sold off to their low for the year. It looks like it came in September of about $9.5. So they came for this one. Since then, it has rebounded, obviously, got up to about 16.25 about a month ago exactly. Since then, it has kind of given up some of that again. So it looks like they've tried to rally it a couple of times. Can't really maintain that bid. It's trading 14 3/4 right now, off about another half a buck today. And it seems like Mr. Rock Lobster, somebody is maybe thinking, I don't know about this near-term rally we've seen in American Eagle. They're coming in to fade it. They picked up 4,136 of the Jan, expiring on the 13th. So in the weeklies, they're not even going out a month. They're going into the weeklies. So we'll know the answer to these next week. 15 puts. These are in the money puts. They paid 64 cents for these bad boys, lifting the offer pretty much. The stock was about a little higher here because it was 15.09. We're at 14.76 right now, listeners. So they got a little bit of a move in their favor for the stock. There are no earnings. The earnings are on March 1st. So Mr. Rock Lobster, somebody's just betting on a big fade in AEO over the next week. And so far, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. Isn't this like like kind of hip kids in the mall wear all these American Eagle clothes?
There's that and like Abercrombie. There's a bunch of these names. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, which it's the opposite of me. I'm just saying that. Nothing against these hip kids that wear the stuff in the mall, but not me. What I am amazed out of, like, it does $5 billion in revenue. So clearly somebody thinks there's something there to these clothes. But they're buying some puts. Let's see here. The 15 puts for 64 cents. These are the 13th. Wow, that's sort of nearish paper, but you know what? It passes the daily sniff test. They're already up. They're already up a dime a put. So that's a dime. 4,100 times. What is that? $40,000 already?
Not quite your girlfriend's Ferrari, but maybe your girlfriend's, Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, it's not terrible. So, I mean, they're up some bucks already. And the vol, it doesn't. I guess is this an earnings play? No, it is not. So, pretty bold. And of course, now LiveVol has some fly on the wall news on the side, so it's kind of cool here. They added this little news feature. So you can maybe get to see what the news was. So interesting on this.
What's the news?
All I know is, as of right now, they are correct buying these puts. So they're not an astronomical price at a 70 vol, but they're definitely, they spent some money on them for sure.
Looking, I don't see any breaking news right now that would drive it, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this. Our last one, really quickly, listeners, because we're coming up against it. It looks like someone is also fading another name that has kind of fallen off a lot of people's radar. This is Groupon. This was a darling not too long ago, not that far down the street here in Chicago, Groupon HQ. Trading 816 right now, ticker symbol GRPN. On the year, a rough year, $25 and about a third is where it kicked off the year. It actually rallied early in the year, up to about $31, and then it just came for it. It's down to $8 now. The low was 6.25. That came just a couple of weeks ago on looks like December 15th, 16th in that time frame. So they have come for this name, and it seems like someone is still fading any chances of some near-term upside. Someone coming in this morning and just blasting away at about 4,000 of the March 11s, so about $3 out of the money calls. They sold those for 40 cents, so it's not nothing. They got about a 78 vol for that. The stock was higher, 840 when they did it. So again, passing the Rock Lobster's first test of, is the stock going your way on the day you make the trade? So a little bit of fading here in Groupon as we roll on out of our first odd block and kick off our first around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode on Monday. Really quickly, Mr. Rocklobster, we have a fun question of the week right now. It's our annual kind of sentiment poll. We're saying if you had to kick off the new year buying a 10% out of the money call expiring at the end of the year in one of these 4 different products / segments, which one would you choose? You give them, SPY or SPX, then Bitcoin or WTI or VIX itself. Mr. Rocklobster, if you had to pick one of those bad boys, which one would you pick? And then what do you think our audience is picking?
10% out of the money call. Oh, wow. It would be between WTI and SPX. Let's see. That's a close one. I think the audience is going to go SPX. I think I would go, and I'm going to go SPX too. I think, but it's almost a toss up between that and WTI.
Nailed it. SPX 37%, at WTI right behind it at 30%, and then 23% for VIX and about 9% for Bitcoin. That just went live yesterday. Listen, no love for Bitcoin. You think just percentage wise, Bitcoin can move 10% pretty easily. So you get more love for that one just because it's the lowest number on the totem pole. You could easily see that one moving, but apparently not. No love there for Bitcoin out there, which is kind of intriguing. Oh, really quickly, Mr. Rocklobster, also, since you're talking about looking ahead, I don't think we didn't get your end of year vol prediction. Where do you think VIX will close at the end of the year, sir? So we'll need your number to enter you in the official rolls for the end of the year.
Oh, I'm gonna go 1688.
Oh, you're going back to the teens, huh?
Yeah.
You're feeling the great fade. That's what everyone felt last year on our sentiment poll. This year, they also picked that same range. I think it was around 16 to 21 was the range we gave them. So they were feeling teens as well. So intriguing stuff out there. All right, Mr. Rocklobster, all that fun aside, what are you keeping an eye on until the next episode on Monday?
Well, we'll see how the market reacts to the CPI number one. And I'm like at this, with the good jobs number, like, okay, commodities, are they gonna get a little kick? Oil, so I think more the nuts and bolts kind of economy type stuff, commodities, silver, stuff like that, fertilizer, all that kind of stuff. Those things have been knocked down pretty hard because everybody's expecting, the terrible recession. We keep, you don't produce a recession when you're still producing jobs. So I think the wave of post-COVID of people going back to work and, demand kind of increasing I think it's still real. So it might be offsetting the rate hikes a little bit. So we'll see. But I think if there's a little bit, because because those big tech valuations are coming down, and I think money's moving into kind of the more boring stuff currently.
No boring stuff here on the network, listener. Just more fun content coming for you. Really quickly, as we wind things down here, we also did our fun holiday flash poll. What's your favorite holiday? And you guys chose Christmas. Thanksgiving was given a good fight there for a while. It was interesting. It was Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, or 4th of July. Ended up 41.2% choosing Christmas. Thanksgiving second at about 26%. No love for Halloween, 16.5%. That'd be my number one. And then actually a tie between Halloween and 4th of July. Both 16.5% for number 3. Intriguing stuff. Unfortunately, listeners, that music means we got to get out of here for this week for our first episode of the new year. Again, Happy New Year to all of our listeners out there, whether you just joined today or whether you've been listening for 16 years now. I want to hear from those of you in that latter category. I know we got some long timers out there. We'll highlight you maybe in our 16th anniversary. We'll highlight some of our long-time listeners. Mr. Rock Lobster, before we go, if folks want to check out what you and the Pleasant Ted have cooking, where should they go? What should they do?
Yes. Optionbit.com. My products are on a huge roll, so I'm pretty happy with that. Like Spy Master, OP Mentoring, Dip Plus, learning all kinds of ways to use options. My easy buttons. I like the trades, although I could manage them a little better. But all these things they're off to a good start with good ideas. Some of them are just really killing it. So almost all our products right now at Options are doing extremely well. So our market, we like volatility, so and we've got plenty of it. So 888-TRADE-01, get 10% off anything if you just say, hey, I listened to Andrew on the Option Insider Radio Network, and there you go. You get something for nothing.
If I call you up and take out the easy button, will you teach me how to buy Oatly?
Exactly.
That's a banger right now, baby. Huge. 30% in the past week. Oh my
gosh, it's green today. That's going to be Doji Central tomorrow.
Doji Central, yes. Green on the day. Up about $1 from where it was just like a couple of weeks ago. It was trading $1.30. Now it's trading $2.30. Quite the return to life here for Oatly. You want to hear more about that, listeners? Join us for tomorrow on Options Oddities. We'll get into all that fun and a whole bunch more. If you're listening live, don't worry. Hang out there in a little bit. I'll be back in a little bit to kick off the new year, talking futures options on TWIFO. Back again tomorrow for our first vol views of the new year. Then after that, of course, we'll talk all things Oatly and everything else for you pro folks on Options Oddities. Then back again next week, Uncle Mike in tow, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.